Hello! Welcome back to Brenda's Books. Thank you for coming back to listen to more of Sara's War. Today we are on Chapter 50. Here we go. Chapter 50. A Better Person. My sluggish feet trudge through the dirt. Fear bubbles inside my gut, and dread weighs down my heart. I stare at the sunset and try to breathe in the beauty of its colors, rather than thinking about how near nighttime is. I stop and glare at my tiny, eerie tent. At least I only have to endure one more night in this thing. And I'm definitely not sleeping. I've got all day on the stinky bus tomorrow to do that. I reach to unzip the tent's door when I spot a note pinned to it. I snatch it off and read its large scrawl. Don't be alarmed when you see me, please. It's just me, Jack. What? Carefully, I slide the zipper open. Sure enough, there's a long man lying inside, next to my sleeping bag. I peer closely to make sure it's the face I want to see. Jack breathes deeply, completely zonked. I notice he brought his own foam pad, sleeping bag, and pillow. I smile as my worry and fear immediately vanish, replacing it with a slow, trickling elation. As silently as possible, I grab some clean, cool pajamas and go off to the makeshift shower spot while I still have a little sunlight left. Once I'm clean and clothed, I come back to my tent and tiptoe inside, so as not to wake Jack. Hey, there you are. I jump at the unexpected deep voice. Then I gasp at the sight of him. He's kneeling up and in the process of putting one arm through the sleeve of his camouflage shirt. I plop down on my bed and gape. Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. Did you not see my note? Oh no, I saw it, but you were asleep 5 minutes ago. And, wow, I forgot how incredibly muscly you are. Jack lets out a breathless chuckle at my lack of words as he slides another arm through the second sleeve. Why, thank you, Doctor, he says with nonchalance. There's no reason to call me Doctor right now. Jack's expression brightens a bit. Yes, ma'am. I look at him in mock disapproval, but Jack just smiles wide. Then his countenance grows subtly conniving. I like the shower look, with your hair up like that. He moves his hand in a straight line going up from his head. My hair is not sticking up, I refute. Jack shrugs as he begins to button his shirt at the collar. Whatever you say. I have no idea what I look like at the moment, and I have no idea if Jack is joking. Is it really? I ask seriously, smoothing my hair with my hand to discover any vicious getaways. Then I remember there isn't enough hair on my head for that to happen. Jack chuckles again and shakes his head. No, you're fine. I knew you were joking, I say, as I pick up his loner woolen sock and toss it at him. Jack laughs and dodges out of its way. You didn't know I was joking. Jack shakes his head, grinning. Yes, I did, I persist, even though we both know he is right. My hair couldn't be sticking up because I don't have any hair. And yet you're still as lovely as ever, says Jack. The way he says this sounds like it's a puzzle to him, but it still causes me to blush deeply. Jack gives me a small smile, then looks down to button his last button. Thanks, I say. I climb inside my sleeping bag, where my toes discover Jack's missing sock. Oh, look what I found! I pull out his gigantic hunting sock and hand it to him. Oh, the pair is together again, he says, as he casually bends his knees up to his chest to put on his socks. Eek! I exclaim. Where did those feet come from? Jack's head shoots up. He looks so startled I have to laugh. That is not funny. I hate my feet, he says. I know, I remember. Did I? That's right, I did tell you, on the beach. I nod, still chortling. You would rather ruin your expensive shoes than have me see your feet. Well, can you see why? He asks, exasperated. I laugh again. What's wrong with them, Jack? They're so big, he exclaims. I roll on my side to face him and lean up on my elbow. You are big, Jack. You need big feet. Besides, good feet like that will save your back when you're older. Jack sighs and shakes his head. Then he smiles down at me. You definitely got me back with that one, he says, as he pulls on his socks. I return the grin and nestle down into my sleeping bag. So, you haven't explained why you're here yet. This tent's a little small for someone as long as you. Jack cracks a smile. Well, I thought my being here might help you sleep. I inhale a large breath and release it slowly. Silence smothers the air for a few awkward beats. Do you want me to leave? Jack wonders, not meeting my eyes. No, definitely not. There's no way I'll be able to sleep when I'm alone. Jack rests his elbows on his knees. But, I stare at the ceiling. I don't want you to feel obligated. Sara, I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be. But what if... Jack stares down at me, patiently waiting for me to finish. But what if I have the same nightmares and you have to help me again? Jack's tone becomes more urgent. Do you honestly think that I would mind? That's why I'm here, Sara. I know what you're going through and I want to help. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that, Jack. I really do. But here's the thing. I roll on my side to face him now, and Jack lies down and faces me too. I lean up on my elbow to look at him more directly. I already feel so indebted to you, Jack. For many reasons. I wish there was something I could do for you, but I can't think of a single thing. Jack's expression grows soft as he looks at me thoughtfully. What you just said is a perfect example of what you do for me. What is that? Tell you the truth? Well, yes, he agrees. You're so open and honest about everything, but it's different than most people. Now he leans up on his elbow too. Usually when someone is known to be, quote, honest, what that really means is they aren't ashamed to let everyone know what a negative cynic they are. But with you, you're so genuinely kind and encouraging. Most people are too jealous to be as complimentary as you are. It's quite intriguing, honestly. I can't help but smile at his praise. I think you do that too, Jack. You're very positive with people. It's partly because of you, Sara. You make me want to be a better person. Wow. Now look who's being complimentary. Jack shrugs. I mean it. Before I got to know you, I was just about to give up on believing there was any good in the world. You proved me wrong. And you have no idea how much that has helped me keep going. What about Chris? I ask. He's a good person. That is true, Jack agrees, nodding. He might be the only other solid gem. I shake my head. There are good people everywhere. And I need you to point them out to me, he says. Honestly, I feel like I've gone blind. I place my hand on his arm. You see clearer than you think, Jack. Don't give up. I pat him lightly on the chest. In doing so, I see the corner of a picture peeking out of his pocket. Hey, what's this? I ask, as I move to pull the picture out. Jack slaps his hand on top of it. It's nothing. My hand hovers awkwardly over his. You don't want me to see it? Jack shakes his head slightly. My hand retreats back into my sleeping bag. Actually, you know what? It's okay. Of course you can see it. He slips the picture out of his pocket and holds it out to me. You sure? Jack nods, and I take the picture carefully out of his hand and shine my flashlight on it. Grinning back at me is a little girl, about 3 or so, with pink pudgy cheeks and long dark curly hair. She has the same golden brown eyes as Jack. She's mine, Jack says. Her name's Jessie, short for Jessica. A slow smile spreads across my face. She's adorable. That she is. I think of her all the time, but ever since you told me about Emma, I've been thinking about her non-stop. The sound of Emma's name from someone else feels strange. It also speeds my heart rate into a frantic sprint. Logically, I know a panic attack is looming, but I can't stop it. It isn't until I feel Jack's strong hand sitting me up by my shoulders and steadying me that I realize how shallow my breathing is. Easy there, Sara, you're all right. This is the main reason I didn't want to show you that picture. But I also didn't want you to think I was hiding something. I miss Emma, I choke. Jack brushes his fingers across my cheek. I know, and that's just fine. It's not fair what happened to her. It's okay to say that. How do you know that's what I was thinking? Jack shrugs. That's what I would think. Hey, come here. He pulls me into his chest and wraps his arms around me. I melt into his hug and focus on catching my breath. Then it hits me. Jack has a child. Does that mean... I pull away and look him in the eye. Do you... Do I what? I swallow hard. Sara, you can ask me anything. Do you have a girl back home? Of course not. What about Jesse's mom? She remarried 8 months ago. Oh, I'm surprised how relieved I feel with that information. I'm sorry, I really didn't think you... It's okay, Jack interjects, rubbing his hand over mine. You had to know for sure. I understand. We both just stare at each other in the dim light for an awkward moment. Eventually, Jack clears his throat and shifts back into his sleeping bag. We better get some sleep. Right. I sink down into my sleeping bag as well. I close my eyes and try not to hear the distant sounds of war. Hey, Sara, says Jack. Yes? I open my eyes and turn my head to look at him. Jack stares at the tent ceiling when he speaks. Do you really not think a relationship in the army can work out? What? You said that to me before. Do you really think that? When did I say that to him? A small gasp escapes my lips when I remember my words the night I broke things off between us. It was at that moment that Jack relented and became defensive. Oh no, I did say that. I turned my head to look at him. Jack, I'm so sorry. I don't know how that came out. That was an awful thing for me to say. Jack shifts in place a bit, still staring at the ceiling. Michelle said that same thing to me over and over. She said... He pauses for a long moment. She said I couldn't be a real dad if I was in the army. I gasp again. That's horrible. That's definitely not true. Oh, Jack, I'm so sorry. I sit up as my words become more urgent. You're a hero, Jack, for all the right reasons. You're a great example to Jessie. I know you don't get to see her often, but that's just it, Jack interjects, sitting up too now. That's why Michelle called it quits. Well, I don't know her side of the story, but that seems really unfair, given you're in charge of a battalion during a war and all. I can see the shadow of Jack's mouth turn into a hard line. I put my hand in his. It's okay to say that. He squeezes my hand in return. Thank you. It's hard to move on, isn't it? I say. Oh, I've moved on, Jack says, his voice resolute as he moves to face me entirely. That's not why I'm telling you this. I just want to know what you meant when you said nothing in the army could work out. Nervous prickles dance through my chest. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking in that direction at all. I was just coming up with excuses. I want to slap my hand over my mouth for saying that, but I resist. Why? Asks Jack, his tone intense. I inhale a shallow breath. I open my mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. Jack shifts in place again. He puts our still interlocked fingers on his lap and rubs his other hand on top, looking down as he speaks in a low voice. I just don't understand why you don't want us to be together. It really seems like you feel the same way I do. I have no idea what to say to this. Those nervous prickles in my chest are now plummeting and exploding. I suck in air to keep my shallow breathing quiet. He releases my hand and rakes his through his hair. You know, speaking of being unfair, this is really unfair of me. I shouldn't pressure you like this. He climbs back into his sleeping bag and rests his arm over his forehead. I'm really sorry, Sara. Can you just forget everything I said? I slide down in my own sleeping bag. No, I don't think I can. Jack sighs. I'm sorry. You really don't owe me an explanation. I pull my covers up to my chin. It's not that I don't want to tell you, Jack. It's just... Jack doesn't speak, nor does he move while he waits for me to finish. It's just embarrassing, I finally say. Jack holds his breath for a moment before releasing it slowly. Well, like I said, you don't owe me an explanation. He rubs his hand down his face before stuffing it inside his sleeping bag. The awkward silence now is so thick it's tangible. It's obvious Jack is dying to know, but somehow the fact that he's willing to let it go anyway gives me the courage to blurt out, "It's because of Ryan." Jack shifts his head to look at me. What? I don't want to forget him, and you're on the front lines every day. What if I lose you too? I can't go through that again. I feel a sob try to burst its way through my throat, but I choke it back just in time. Jack shifts so his whole body is facing me. So given that we're not a couple, if I were to die tomorrow, you wouldn't be sad? No, of course I'd be sad no matter what, but it's not the same thing. Jack lies on his back and puts his arm over his forehead again. You're right, it isn't. I'm sorry. But here's how I look at it. He hesitates. Yes? I prod. I'm worried you'll feel pressured after I say this, and I promise I'm not trying to do that. Everything between us can be entirely up to you. But regardless, I see it differently. Okay, how do you see it? Jack rolls his body to face me again. Sara, if you were to die tomorrow, I would regret not telling you how I felt. I would regret not telling you how much I care about you and how I don't want to be with anybody else but you. His words are just a whisper now. I swallow hard. I can feel the intensity of his stare even in the darkness. What about Ryan? I press. What about him? I don't want to forget him. Why would you need to, under any circumstance? I sigh and look up at the ceiling. Why does he have to make so much sense? I'm just not ready to move on yet, Jack. I know I will at some point, but not yet. Jack lies on his back and puts a fist up to his mouth before releasing a long, slow breath. Now that, I understand. There's a long beat of silence before Jack pats me on the leg. Thank you for telling me, Sara. It's nice to know the real reason. You're welcome, I whisper. Now the silence stretches on for so long I drift off to sleep and dream Jack whispering the words. Fair warning, Sara. I'm waiting for you until you're ready. And that concludes Chapter 50. Thank you for listening to Sara's War. I hope you join me next Thursday for Chapter 51, which is called The Young Assassin. I hope you have a wonderful week. Enjoy your last days of summer. If you want to find out more about Brenda's books, you can visit brendasbooks.net. Until next time, take care.